Of breathing like this, you'd want something nice and calm, maybe even a little classical music. That's something you can experiment with on your own. So we begin to focus by feeling the belly moving. So we're bringing our attention inwards. We withdraw the senses. Feel free to close the eyes here. And then see if you can feel the feet evenly placed, where either they're on the floor in your shoes, doesn't matter. But bring some evenness, and also evenness to the backs of the thighs resting on the chair. So I'm not leaning to either side. And I'm feeling the belly rising and falling underneath the hands, and the softening of the face and the eyes. That focusing on the breath is a really effective way to calm the nervous system and the mind. So we'll do a few more breaths here. And remember, this is the same practice that you could continue at the end of the class. When we finish up, feel free to take a little longer. So take this practice with you. Take it with you. So it's not just in the class. That you don't need myself or another teacher or anyone else. It comes, you've got it packaged inside, and you can feel what to do. Remembering that this practice, at first we use our analytical mind to remember what we're doing, and then we begin to internalize it by feeling what's happening, feeling the breath, feeling the nice extension of the spine without straining though, feeling the balance on the left and the right sides of the body. Feeling the evenness on the left and right sides of the face, and the softening of the jaw and the tongue and the throat. And then go ahead, if you had your hands up, you can bring them back down. Let's start with the sound of Om. So we're going to begin to wake ourselves up with a vibration in the throat. Remember the Om sound, we're going to make 3 different sounds to stimulate different parts, different areas. The vibration that we make is stimulating areas. The cavities in the body resonate from the vibration, and depending on the frequency of the vibration, the different size cavities resonate, just like on a musical instrument. So the first one is the ah sound. So please try it with me, nice and easy without straining. We'll just do that sound on its own. And then the second sound is the see if you notice if it resonates a little bit more in one spot. No matter what, the throat's always going to feel a little bit more resonant, but on this last one, notice if it feels a little more resonant. We close the mouth and make the like we ate something. Like one of my favorites is chocolate. So feel like you just ate a piece of chocolate. Get tickles in my ear. So we'll do those 3 things all in a row. So it'll be like this. It'll be notice the shape of the mouth. Think about the shape. Nice and wide with the first, an O shape with the second part, and the third part we close the mouth. So let's try it together. We'll do it 3 times. So please join me if you want. Yoga for the voice. Sitting up nice and tall. Relaxing the face and the eyes and the shoulders. One last time. And sit up nice and tall. And the next time you exhale, the next time you exhale, lift the chin ever so slightly, and then keeping the front part of the throat open, soften and just let the chin come down like we're bowing our head. Let's try that again. You could also, if you wanted to, rest your hand very gently on the throat, but be careful. The throat is a very sensitive area. So we don't want to push against it with the hand. I'm resting my hand on it, and there's actually some space back here. And then I allow the chin to come down and rest on the hand. And it keeps this area open. So by my hand being here, that area stays open. And I don't feel like I'm squashing my throat. So it can be hard to breathe if your throat feels squashed. So let's try that again. Inhale, lift the chin slightly. Exhale, release the chin down. Notice if there's anything in the back of the neck or even in the shoulders. Little gentle stretch. Inhale one more time. And exhale down. The spine is still relatively elongated here. I'm really just bending at the neck. And then I'm going to inhale and come back up. Let's add some movement. So we'll inhale, bring the hands together, inhale, and circle around. So we do this movement a lot. So see if you can, if you're familiar with it, shut your eyes. Shut your eyes and the palms come together without watching. See if you can get them to fit gently together. So it's nice and even. So if I looked at my hands, see how they line up? And then I inhale and the hands float up. Palms turn out as I'm exhaling. They float down. And then they inhale and they float up. And the chin's lifting a little bit with the hands. And then the chin's going down a little bit as the hands come down. You may or may not want to be all the way back in the chair for this. Sometimes if we're a little bit away from the back of the chair, we can get a little bit more movement in the thoracic spine. If you want it to take more effort, slide all the way forward. So just the sitting bones are on the chair. And we want to feel grounded in the feet and the sitting bones so that when we rise up with the hands, we have the sitting bones and the feet supporting us. So we very gently press the feet. The idea, so it's an isometric contraction of the quadriceps to press the feet, just gently with the feet and evenly on both feet. And then the next time the hands come together, we're going to pause for a moment and take a couple of breaths like this. Inhale, exhale. Remember, you can adjust how high the elbows are here. They can be down low and you can open out like this, or they can be even as high as the shoulders. No higher than the shoulders though. The shoulders bunch up too much. If the arms get too high, the shoulders will rise up. We don't want that. We want the shoulders to actually, I want to feel like there's a big space between the earlobes and the shoulders. It's almost like the shoulders are dropping down away from the earlobes. And let's go the back in the other direction now. So we release the hands down, the palms turn up, and then the hands float up, and they come together. Remember, see if you can get them to fit really evenly. That's the tips of the fingers as well as the sides. So they're a mirror image of each other. And if you can, try closing the eyes and do it. We're activating our proprioceptive senses, that ability to feel ourselves in space by feeling without looking. And it gets easier with practice. So in the beginning, it's a little bit like if anybody plays, like if you played the piano. In the beginning, your fingers, you have to look at everything. But after a while, your fingers kind of know where to go. And actually, that's true with many things that we get used to doing. We wouldn't necessarily have to actually see the fingers. They know where to go. If anybody does knitting, I know I've seen people, they don't seem to, they're doing totally different things, and their hands just keep moving, and it looks so effortless. And you might notice the chin going up and down, and even feel the turn sideways so you can see. Even feel the arms, the shoulder blades moving back and then rounding forward slightly. But I'm not leaning forward and back. I'm not leaning forward and back. And then we'll come back to the middle and take a couple more breaths. Inhale. This time we're going to wrap ourselves with our arms. So thinking about maybe taking hold of the shoulders or the upper arms or the elbows, depending what's comfortable. So we don't want to force the shoulder blades apart so that it's uncomfortable behind me. So depending on your flexibility, and if you practice regularly, and you'll find that you get a little more movement back there with time. And the shoulders are relaxed here. The face and eyes are relaxed. Just taking a nice breath in. And giving a sigh as we give ourselves a hug. And then inhale. And sigh. One last time. Remember to sit up nice and tall when you breathe in. Like you're almost lifting out of the chair. And then exhale and hug. And let's come back. Let's roll the shoulders. And back the other way. And we're going to do a little bit of, we're going to start with some twisting, some gentle turning. So you can work here, the hands could be on the shoulders like this. You could work with the hands down like this, whatever's comfortable. Think about moving the elbows back. Think about moving the elbows back. And letting the head turn on top of the shoulders. So I'm actually not, I'm not turning the head really in relation to the shoulders. It's just my head is sitting on the shoulders. It is turning only by the fact that my waist is turning. And when my waist turns, my shoulders turn. And when my shoulders turn, my head is just sitting there. So you could, if you wanted, turn the head with the turning. So you get a little bit more turn, or you could even turn your head in the opposite direction. These are only recommended if you don't have any neck issues. If you have any neck issues at all, the slightest neck issue, please leave your head just sitting on top, because it definitely takes more to turn the head. And we're not trying to crank the head here. It's let's bring the hands down and roll the shoulders. And bring the hands up. And now we're going to go from side to side. Thinking about the weight moving from one side to the other. If you want, you can begin to lift one foot up and then the other. And if you need padding, if your chair is very firm like this, a little padding like a firm blanket. A very firm blanket. And this is probably really true for any props that we use in our yoga practice. We want firm props. So we want props to offer protection, but not to make us unbalanced. So the same thing goes for behind us. If we put something behind us to soften the back of the chair, we don't want to, what happens is if things are too squishy, we tend to be, one side ends up being squished, turned more. And so we're going to rock from side to side. And you can do this if you don't like the hands up like this, just rest them on the legs like this. I'm going to do this for maybe another 30 seconds or so. This is going to be one of our warm-ups because it really gets at the abdomen here. As we lift up the foot and the knee, it activates this whole train of muscles that run up the side of the body. Actually, let's try that. Try this. So when you lift up, start with your hand here and bring your hand up like this, and then bring it back down, and then try the other side. And think about, as the hand is coming up, think about the feeling of lifting up on this side. And then as it's going down, think about the feeling of down. So it's up and down, almost like, I don't know if anybody used to, you'd imitate a monkey and you'd like scratch like this and jump around when you were a kid. So we're going to come up and then back down. And you can even add a little bit more. If this feels okay, feel free to add your own movement to it. You could even go up if you wanted, like this. Almost like we talk about this string attached. Sometimes we do this. Think about a string attached to the foot. So you're your own marionette. You're your own puppet. And you're lifting your leg up like this. And then come on back down. And then slowly come back to the center. So hopefully that was fun. So sometimes doing things that are just sort of feel like they're, I don't know, different but interesting. It's a nice way to practice. And let's inhale and lift one arm up and then bring it down. I'm going to do this back and forth like this. And now think about, as you lift the arm up, think about pressing this opposite foot down. So notice that you can't really tell I'm pressing the foot down, but I'm leaning a little bit in this direction and stretching up. And then I'm going to go the other side. So I'm alternately contracting the quadriceps here, contracting here. You could even, if you wanted, put your hand here and feel the muscle tighten. So that is your cue that you're on track, is you put your hand and you feel the muscle tighten, and then you come back down. And then you press down with this side and you feel the muscle tighten. And hopefully you get a feeling as you press the foot down that you're getting a little bit more lift, because we start to activate that idea of pressing up on that side of the body. So it begins to make us feel like we're lifting up a little more. You could even, if you're tired of sitting, so remember this is your practice, you could stand up and you could do the same thing standing like this. So now my weight is shifting to this foot as I lift the arm up. And notice that my back heel lifts up a little bit. Harder to lift the heel when you're seated. So it's just a little different. So this is a different sort of feeling. I'm still getting that feeling of lifting. And these aren't necessarily, one isn't necessarily better than the other. They're different. The gauge I like to use is that if I've been sitting for a long time, it can be nice to stand, and vice versa. That if I've been having to stand for a long time, sitting down, the other thing is you might be able to, if you're sitting at the computer, do a few stretches like this where I'm pressing the leg and lifting the arm as a little release to get some lengthening of the spine as a break, even just a few times, maybe 30 seconds. Count, to 30 as you do this. And then come on back down. We're going to do some lateral extension here. So we're going to lean to one side. This time I'm not lifting the foot. I'm going to lean over and I'm going to start to work more with a little bit of bending on the side. And this is going to work the muscles on the side of the abdomen as I have to. So I'm leaning, and then these muscles have to contract to pull me back up. And then I'm leaning, these muscles, they're actually contracted, but they're lengthening. So there's two different ways. So muscles do different things The isometric is where they contracted and they don't move. And then they can contract and shorten. They get smaller, and they can contract and actually lengthen at the same time. So it's nice to be able to use all those different engagements of the muscles. They're called concentric and eccentric and isometric. And I'm leaning. And if you're struggling with this, try using a chair with arms, and you can rest your hands. You can rest your hands on the arms of the chair for support. And you could do the same thing standing, right? Notice the shape is the same. The shape is the same, except I'm standing. So this becomes really your choice here. Sorry, you can't see the tops of my hands, I don't think. And let's come back and sit up nice and tall and take a few breaths. So you should be feeling a little more warmed up. So we were warming up the large muscle groups in the body with those. And we're going to do one last thing to do that. I'm going to come forward in the chair. So our sitting bones are near the edge of the chair. Make a wide stance here. And the ankles are a little bit in front of the knees. So if I turn sideways, you would see, normally we do knee over ankle. We're going to put our foot out a little bit more. And we're going to start to circle. We're going to circle around. Beginning with the hands on the knees. And then if you want to make it a little bit more challenging, you can circle the hands around like this. So now there's no support from the arms. So I have to use really just the core muscles. And try not to look down. Try not to do this. Try to look across the room so that the spine stays lifted and long. And if you want even more of a challenge, you can bring the arms out and circle them like this. So I'm not leaning back too much, a little bit, and I'm not moving the arms back. You could do that, but it's a lot more challenging, and let's go the other way. So I'm going to start out with my hands on the knees. And if I want to go to the next one, if this feels really easy, you can try the hands out. You can even stir something. Imagine you're stirring a giant pot of soup, cold soup, maybe gazpacho, if anybody likes gazpacho. And then if that's really easy too, you can try the arms spinning around like this. But we don't want it, so we don't want any pain in the back. If you're getting pain or discomfort in the lower back, or even in the abdomen, or in the neck or the shoulders when you do this, you're overdoing. So please don't. Please practice ahimsa and then come back down and roll the shoulders. Ahimsa is the Sanskrit word for nonviolence. And then we'll go the other way. And take a couple of breaths. Give a little sigh when you exhale. The sigh helps to relax us, helps the sigh of relief that's over. And let's do all the joints in the body. So starting with the hands, opening and closing the hands. And you can let's add the feet. So go ahead and take a look at the feet. So when I open my fingers, I'm going to lift my toes. And then I'm going to close the hands, my toes relax. So try open and down. So notice that it's only the toes lifting. My feet aren't really doing that much. I mean, when I lift the toes, these muscles on the top of the foot are lifting the toes up. But the rest of the foot is relatively neutral, or not relaxed maybe isn't the right word, but I'm not trying to contract the rest of the foot. And with practice, the toes may move more. With practice over time. And it's actually kind of an interesting It's an interesting feeling to feel the hands and then feel the toes moving at the same time. So see if you can cue your mind to actually feel them. Try closing the eyes. Still sitting up nice and tall. Remember, you can slide into the back of the chair for support if you need it. And then go ahead and rest just for a moment. Take a breath. And let's circle. And then back the other way. Let's do this a couple of times in each direction. And you can also, if you want, remember, you can add the hands to it if you want. You can open and close the fingers and circle the wrists at the same time. And if you're not all the way in the back of the chair, go ahead and slide back. Let's do the ankles. And then the other way. And we can add the wrists again, since they're not doing anything else. You don't have to. So you could just focus on doing the ankles, or you could add the wrists. And then focus on all four things and see if you can bring your mind to feel each one moving. So four things are moving instead of two, and then back the other way. And if you're experimenting and you want to try just doing the ankles, notice how when you stop doing the hands, it feels different in the mind. It feels a little bit different. And let's rock the feet. So we're going to lift up the heels and then lift up the toes. And let's add the hands to it like this. Opening and closing the elbows. So this is for the elbows. And I'm extending and opening the hands. Fingers extend. And then I'm coming back and closing. Almost like doing a bicep curl. If you had weights, and you did a bicep curl, you'd bring the hands up. But this is kind of a soft bicep curl. And I'm timing it so that at the end of my curl, I'm all the way open, and either my heels are up or my toes are up. It doesn't matter, but they're at the end of where they're at. And then as I come up, I go to the opposite extreme with the feet. So I'm rocking, so they're in rhythm. My feet and my elbows and fingers are rhythmically connected here. And then one more time. And I'm going to rest my hands, rest my head, and roll my shoulders. So we did the toes, we did the ankles, we're going to do the knees and the neck. So let's start with the knees. We're going to inhale and come on up and exhale down, and then do the other side. So for this one, you may need to reposition yourself slightly so that once you start to lift your foot up and you've taken away some of your support down there, that you can maintain your balance in the chair. So try to do it so we don't lose our balance when we take our foot away. And that means we're engaging down here. We have to use all these muscles here to keep us upright. You could even try this. Try bringing the hands together, the arms, elbows in by the side, and the arms are straight here. And we're getting straightness in the spine, straightness in the forearms, as a way to sort of keep us these are like stiffeners. These are like stiffening our spine, our straightness of our spine. And one of the things that's happening as we pull the elbows in, it helps to support the abdomen. So we're getting a little bit, we need to get support from the belly here. So you need to feel like your belly the navel's moving back a little bit. So if you poke at your belly here, if you lift up your leg like this and you poke at your belly, you want to feel it's firm. Otherwise, the back ends up doing all the work. We need firmness here, firmness here, firmness behind. So this whole area is firm to help lift the foot up. People often have back problems, can be caused or can be contributed to by weak abdominal muscles. The back isn't made to do all the work to hold the body up. The body is designed so that all the muscles, they work together. And we sit so much that oftentimes our belly becomes kind of weak. And let's add the arm to it. So let's lift up. So we're like a marionette again. So we're going to lift up and let the arm float up. And your arm, depending on how your shoulder is, your arm may only go a little ways up. That's okay. It might even just go like this. It's actually an interesting way to work because when we lift up like this, it's a little bit easier to see the foot and also to maintain the distance between the foot. So the length here is staying the same if I just lift up. If I go up all the way like this, I'm now the length is much greater here. And so it's a little different feeling than keeping them in unison like this. So kind of your choice, really based on the shoulders. So if it bothers your shoulders to lift way up like that, then just stay with the hand and the foot moving together like this. And let's lift up, and we're going to point and flex the foot a few times. Now, when you point and flex, see if you can keep the sole of the foot even. So, in other words, it's not rotating in, and it's not rotating out. We want to try to keep it even, so there's not a big rotation in the ankle either way. And that can take some doing sometimes, because sometimes we are used to, depending on our shoes and how we walk, we're used to one side of the foot tending to be, and the feet are never the same, by the way. So the arch on one foot is not the same as the arch on the other foot. Or it's not typical for that to be the case anyway. We're all uneven a little bit anyway. And some people are more uneven. And some people are a little bit less, but we all tend to be uneven. And then we'll point and flex a couple of times on one side. This is good for ankle mobility. So when I flex the foot, turn sideways, when I flex my foot, notice how the angle here changes in the front of the ankle. And oftentimes, if our ankle mobility is not good, it actually affects the whole leg, the knee, all the way up to the hip, even up into the spine it can affect. Because remember, everything, it's a chain and it's all connected here. So we want to have the ankles flexible, especially if we want to be able to ambulate well. No matter what we do, no matter how we move around, we need good ankles. And let's see, the neck. Let's sit up nice and tall. And remember, if you want a little bit more work, you can slide forward. You could even stand up if you want. You could do your neck exercises standing. So I'm going to stand up just because I'm tired of sitting. But you can also do them seated. And I'm going to let the chin go up and down. If you're doing these standing, you might be less inclined to close the eyes. For balance reasons. So if you like to close your eyes when you do your neck exercises because you find that it helps relax, then you probably want to keep your eyes just be seated. And then we're going to tip the head from side to side. And you can add that pillow if you want. Resting the ear on the hands, on the shoulder. And go back and forth. And then we're going to go looking from side to side. We're going to add the hand to it like this. So it's like we're conducting an orchestra. We're moving the hand, or um, you're you're in a horror movie and there's spider webs and you're sweeping the spider webs back and forth. Like I think in Indiana Jones, one of the movies, they're going through this cave and there's spider webs everywhere and they have to constantly go like this. And let's try the other hand, same thing. Just so we're a little balanced on both sides. And then finally, we're going to circle the head around. And let's do this with the arm, starting out with small circles in the front, and then start to make the circles a little bit bigger. And we want the neck to feel okay. So if we get to the point where there's any discomfort or too much popping or clicking, constant popping and clicking, we don't really want that. Occasionally you'll get a pop or click in the neck, but we don't want it to be like all the time. And then we'll start to make the circles smaller. And then bring that hand down. And we're going to circle the other way, this time with the other hand. So you'll end up going in the same, you'll either be going out. If you were going out before with this hand, you'll be doing the out with the other hand. So starting small, and then getting a little bit bigger. Keeping the shoulders relaxed, shoulders nice and relaxed. You could rest your hand on your shoulder. Let me see how that feels actually. Sometimes just this gentle hand. So if you're going to rest your hand on it, it's really just resting. I'm not pushing down. The arm is relaxed. I've got my hand resting up here. It might help to keep the shoulder down, but I'm not pushing it down. I'm letting the arm be relaxed on it, kind of like having a weight. And then make the circles smaller. And then finally bring the arm down, let's roll the shoulders. Well, that's really interesting. I've never actually done that before with shoulder circles. Try the other side. If you did that one, try the other side. Rest the hand here and then circle it in the opposite direction. And see how that feels. It certainly puts us in touch with the movement in the shoulder. Because you can really, when your hand's resting on the shoulder, you feel the shoulder moving under the fingers. And then come on down. And let's roll. And then roll the other way. And let's roll one and then the other. A little backstroke. We've done this before. A little backstroke. So we're gently opening the shoulder. So it's a very slight rotation backwards. I'm not trying to stretch the joint open. Sometimes people have the idea that by stretching the shoulders a lot, you can improve your range of motion. And it is true. You can do that. You can also make your shoulders less stable. And we want stable shoulders. We want the muscles around the shoulder to keep the arm bone in to the socket. Otherwise, it can pop out. And it's the strength. It's really the strength of the muscles around the shoulder that keep the head of the humerus, this bone right here, in the socket. Let's see. So we did backstroke. Let's do a crawl stroke now. As you reach out, think about crossing the body and bringing the hand down the side like this, just as if you were swimming. So I'm reaching out, arm comes across, and then it comes down the outside of the opposite thigh. And notice how the belly's turning here. I want to feel this turning from the hip up to the ribs and the shoulder. I'm going to go back and forth like that. If your shoulders bother you when you do this, don't reach out so far and don't reach so high. This is a turning exercise. This This is a turning, and you might feel yourself leaning slightly forward. If that's uncomfortable, try moving your feet further away from the chair. And that'll help support the weight. So the weight begins to come forward. We need to have a way to keep it in the chair. And then let's come back and roll the shoulders a couple times. So let us, we should all be all warmed up. I think we did pretty much all the joints in the body. Let's stand up for a minute. Or we're going to do our standing poses. And so you may, depending on your how warm it is in your house, grab a sip of water. Let's start with our triangle pose. So if you're seated, we'll demonstrate it seated first. If you're seated, you'll sit up nice and tall. Feet are a little bit apart, but a comfortable distance. And I'm going to turn my feet out a little bit. So remember, triangle pose is the arms are extended out and one arm travels down the leg and the other comes up towards the ear. If this is hard for your shoulders, you can also work with just lifting the elbow up like this. See if that helps. I'm going to go back and forth. And if you're standing, the shape is very similar. Still have the triangular shape with the feet and the pelvis. So we have the 3 points of the triangle like this. We'll start with the feet apart, and you can add the arms like this, and then we'll lean to one side, and then come back, and then the other side, letting the hand come slightly down the leg. So the wider you make the stance, the more challenging it is. Also, balance becomes more of an issue front and back. So you need to be mindful of that. You can also, the hand can go down the leg a little further if your feet are further apart. So whether or not you're seated in your chair and doing it, or you're standing, think about the hand sliding down the leg and this bending at the where the torso meets the top of the leg. Where the torso meets the top of the leg. Let's try this. Bring your feet back together for a moment. So whether or not you're seated or standing, just pause there for a minute in mountain pose. Take a couple of breaths. And then step the feet apart. Come back to your mountain pose, whether it's standing or seated. And then bring the hands on the hips like this. And then lean to one side and then the other. And as you lean, think about keeping the weight even in the feet. So there's a tendency as I lean to this side over here for all the weight to go into this foot. Try to keep the back foot engaged so it's pressing down into the floor. So some of my weight, there's more weight on this side, more weight over here, but I still keep some weight here. So I think about pressing that foot down, and then I do the other side. And a couple more times. And let's try this way with the breath. So we'll inhale, and then exhale, bend. And inhale, and exhale, bend. And inhale, and exhale, bend. A couple more times on your own. So we're exhaling as we bend to the side, inhaling to help bring us back up. And if you want now, you can add the arms. And of course, you can always pause for a minute. Anytime you need to rest, feel free to pause. Exhaling, bend. Inhaling up one last time. And then the other side. And let's bring the feet back together. And we'll come back to our mountain pose. And we're going to do our balance pose next. So today we're going to do tree pose. So you can do tree pose seated in a chair. Why don't I show that first? If you're standing and you know tree pose, feel free to go ahead and do it. Or seated. You know, so for many of you, you've been to a number of the classes. Think about how to do the pose. It's not, there's no one's going to say anything because No one can see you. So if you don't do it exactly right, it's okay. And after a while, when you start to have to recall the pose yourself, you'll be able to do it with, it'll be easier to do, you'll feel better about it, and you won't need me to do the pose. You'll be able to do it on your own. And that's really, the goal. The goal of our yoga practice ultimately is to be able to do the practice whenever we want to do it. And notice how my foot's on the floor here and my knee is pointed out. So there's about a 90-degree angle here in the front. So if you're standing, you'll shift the weight into one leg, and then you can rest the toes like this, or you could bring the sole of the foot up to the inside of the calf like this. For balance, think about that drishti point, that focal point, that point of concentration. Find something that won't move and fix your eyes there. Let's do the other side. So we come back to mountain pose, and then we shift to the other side. And the leg comes out to the side, and then we find a spot for the sole of the foot. Find a spot, find that drishti point. Think about extending the spine up as you breathe in. So it's lengthening. If you lose your balance, have your chair handy, but always bring your foot down. Let's do that mountain pose one more time, then we'll do tree pose one more time. And exhale. So a couple of breaths here. Let the breathing come back to normal. Let the heart rate come back to normal. And then we're going to shift the weight into the opposite foot, and we're going to turn that other leg out. And then extending the spine up, lengthening the spine. If you want, you can add your arms here or one arm. If you want to use your chair, you can do a one-arm tree. Or you can even bring your hands like this right in the center of your heart. And then we'll go ahead and step down, come back to mountain pose, make your legs even, feel evenness in the feet. Standing up nice and tall, we'll do the other side. So we'll turn the other leg out, the weight shifts into the straight leg, or if you're seated, into the straight bent, the knee that's pointing straight ahead. And then we find a spot for the sole of the foot. And if it takes a couple of times, that's okay. Find that drishti point, something that won't move. And if you want to add your arms, you can. If you want to add your arms, you can. Keep the face and eyes soft here. Even smile. Smile if you can. I mean, it's nice to feel imbalanced, where we're in space and and come on down. And not that it's not normal, but most people don't stand on their feet. You could try it when you go to the grocery store or something like that, and you're standing in line now, because now we have big gaps between people. Try shifting your weight into one leg and just lifting your foot up for a moment, and then coming back down and doing the other side. I guarantee you, unless you do it a lot, no one will notice. And actually many of us, when we stand, and this can be something to think about posture, many of us, when we stand talking to somebody, we stand for a period of time and we're talking to somebody, we're not paying attention to our posture, we start to lean over, and one foot, sometimes we even turn out one foot. If we have something to lean against, we'll lean against the car like this. And ideally, we're actually balanced on our feet like this. And we're going to sit back down and take a couple of breaths. So we'll inhale and exhale. Inhale, exhale. So being aware of our balance, being aware of evenness on the left and the right side, even evenness forward and back. So I'm not leaning back like this and I'm not leaning forward like this. And this helps to maintain that nice posture, that elongated spine posture. And let's go back the other way. Drop the hands and then turn the palms up as we inhale and come up and then come down. And if you want, you can gently bow the head with the hands rising and falling. And feel free to close the eyes here. Shoulders are relaxed. Shoulders are relaxed, so no need for them to rise up towards the ears. They move up a little when we lift the hands way up, but we don't want them to go up towards the ears like that. So if they're doing that, make the circles smaller. And then go ahead and bring the hands down. Take a couple of breaths. And exhale, give yourself a hug. And a few more of these, a few more on your own. Feel free to close the eyes. So you just feel this nice opening of the chest and then opening of the shoulder blades. Opening of the chest, opening of the shoulder blades. We're going to sit back for our Savasana. Remember, we want to find as comfortable a position as we can. So we adjust ourselves. We adjust ourselves so that the back is supported or feels supported. And it could mean you don't have to use the back of the chair, but it can be nice to actually have a little bit of support so it's not so much work when we're trying to rest. And then go ahead and feel the feet balanced on the floor. And feel the arms and shoulders balanced on the torso. And even the sides of the face feel balanced. The cheeks, the ears. The buttocks feel balanced. So we're not leaning to one side or the other. The face and eyes are soft. And we continue to breathe a nice natural breath, feeling the belly going in and out with the breath. So remember, you can continue your Savasana. We'll go for a couple minutes, and then if you're listening to the class on the computer, we'll probably stay another minute or so. But if you're watching it on TV, when the class is over on the TV, try shutting the TV off and continuing with the Savasana for just a few minutes and see how that is. It'll be a little different. I promise that it'll be a little different. And with a little practice, we get so we feel comfortable doing Savasana on our own. We can do it whenever we want, whenever we need a break. And that's real yoga. Real yoga is calling up our practice whenever we need it. That's real union. So yoga means union. I'm going to continue for about another minute or so with the breath. Namaste. Hope you all have a great day and a great weekend. Namaste. Peace and blessings.
Thank you.
So that's a formal ending to the class, I guess. But if you want to spend another minute or so in Savasana, go ahead. I'll sit here and we'll wait and see what happens.